Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, a costly mistake. Also, the Senate rejects a dumb THC bill. And lawmakers push the 10 Commandments in schools.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments for all to obey.
It's a joke. It's just a joke. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter at APR. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, we got some welcome news
Finally.
This past week. Dr. Tim Melson, who originally sponsored the medical cannabis bill, has come back with what seems like a legitimate fix to a process that has been booed, screwed, and tattooed by the AMCC so badly that it's taken years, Josh. And you listened, you were there at that meeting, you listened to that meeting, and boy, Dr. Melson did not spare the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission at all.
No, he was. He seemed to be pretty frustrated. And he repeated a few times. That we're going on 4 years here of this since passing the legislation, and we still have not got product out to the patients. And he went through some things I think that that needed to be said. I think that we've said for a while now, and about the commission and about the way they've handled these things and about the way they have violated the laws and about why this thing has been tied up in court for so long. And, people love to blame the folks who didn't get a license, who filed these lawsuits, and make it seem like this is a sour grape situation that's holding this whole thing up. But the fact of the matter is exactly what Melson said yesterday, is that this thing they wrote laws out and the commission didn't follow the laws.
That's right.
I hope, one of the things that he said at the end of this was after a number of speakers spoke, and they were all folks who had a license for the most part. He said, it's great if you got this process was great for you if you had a license, but if you didn't, we went through this process the last time that they went through it of choosing these folks, and they had a selection process where they ranked them 1 to 28.
Yeah.
Each commissioner ranked these folks 1 to 28, which meant essentially a couple of, and this is what he said, a couple of the highest scorers were ranked in the top 2 by most everybody, but still for them, there were a couple of commissioners on there that scored them 28th or 16th or 18th or something, and which shows you that either they were incompetent or they had an agenda.
Yeah.
And so now he's trying to create a process that basically removes this government agency from selecting these folks and giving them a license for at least a portion of the selection process. And it's a remarkable failure. I mean, that's the only way you can say it. It's a remarkable failure that this is what's happening right now.
Well, Susan, one of the things they're proposing to do is bring in professional auditors, score them anonymously, and that's how the process would be done. And I think if we do it that way, we'll get a fair process.
That's what we've been saying all along. Do-over. They needed a do-over because this has become an absolute mess. A mess of a mess.
Yeah.
And it just keep, and the legal fees for the state keep going up. The legal fees for all of these folks keep going up. And you and I both know that some of these licenses are going to people that don't even have the land lease,
Right.
much less have a facility on it, which is one of the major requirements here.
To be kind, it has been a flawed process.
Yeah, that's kind.
And I don't want to belabor it too much, but go ahead, Josh.
No, I think this it's really important. One part of this is really important and really should highlight what everybody should notice out of this, and that's the fact that he's stressing bringing in someone from outside, a third party group, and keeping it anonymous.
Yeah.
And he also mentioned in his comments this stuff about having an agenda or having something that they wanted to get to or whatever. This is essentially a sitting Alabama senator who's not known for being hyperbolic or exaggerating things. Matter of fact, one of the most respected and quiet guys around. And he's essentially saying to you that we can't trust the folks on this commission to do the right thing.
Well, maybe he's been watching the show because we've been saying it for years.
Yes,
that you can't trust him.
That you can't.
But I need to move on to this next one because this is very important. There's a bill, SB 110, that would increase the actual rate, Susan, on these logging trucks, concrete trucks, and big trucks like this, which would ruin the roads in Alabama quickly. And we're spending all this money. We raised the fuel tax in Alabama to pay for roads and bridges. Now we want this select group to be able to increase the weight of their vehicles so that they can tear them up.
Right. I mean, we're talking about $150 million to repair them after this is done. I mean, where is that money going to come from?
Estimate, right?
Yeah, yes, that's the estimate. So if we've already raised the gas tax because our roads are in crap shape as it is, now we're going to add this. And quite honestly, I don't know anybody that likes being on the road with timber trucks because they are so stinking dangerous. Now, if you add weight to that, it's gonna slow them down as being able to brake efficiently. You're gonna have more turnover rates. They're going to get more dangerous. Why is this select group gonna be able to do this? I don't understand.
I mean, Josh, this is all about these select individuals, especially the big timber barons, wanting to be able to haul bigger loads so they can save money. Meanwhile, they pay the lowest taxes of anybody on land, but they want yet just one more break. But we'll be the ones paying for the torn up roads, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're asking why they're doing this, money. That's the reason why they're doing this. And listen, if you doubt this, you mentioned concrete trucks. We live fairly close to a quarry here, and so we have the rock trucks that come out. And if you would like to see what happens to roads pretty quickly, I can give you the names of several roads in Limestone County that these trucks travel on a routine basis, and you can just drive through some of them and see what they are. And this is after they've been repaired repeatedly since we've lived here for the last 6 or 7 years, and they continue to tear these things up. And those logging trucks. Ask somebody who deals in and around those work sites every day if they would like to have the logging trucks weighing a little more as they're coming down some of those hills.
Yeah. Well, and one of the big things is, I mean, in Alabama, you don't even have to have a license.
No, you don't have to have
You just have to have a regular driver's license to operate one of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. And the whole thing comes down to the taxpayers are going to pay to give them yet another break.
Absolutely. And I mean, they already stacked these trucks to the max as it is. There's nowhere else to put another log.
Yeah.
How physically, in physics, how are you going to do that?
Well, they're going to get bigger axles, and they're going to make the trucks heavier, and they're going to tear up our roads, and then we get to pay for it, so they get more cheap timber. But we're going to have to leave it there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. your body keeps going. And that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag. Something has to stop it, and unfortunately, it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous, and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. I have nothing against religion.
Mm-hmm.
I have all respect for religions of all nature. I have respect for Jews, Muslims, Christians, all of that. I think there is good in all of them. I especially think there is good in the Ten Commandments. But I do not believe that they belong in public schools, which is where our legislature wants to put the Ten Commandments in every public school and every state-funded university, so that they say that will increase the moral compass of these students. Well, I can assure you that putting up a plaque will not. And they try to talk about how, this is, where our laws come from, our U.S. Constitution comes from, which is just plain ignorant. I mean, if you look at the first 4 or 5 commandments, you shall worship no other God before me. You have no, that kind of thing. That's not a law in the United States Constitution.
No.
But Susan, it's just more control.
Well, I tell you what it also is the worshiping of idols. When you make something like that so sacred that, you've already broken a commandment right then. But here's my problem. We've already got failing schools. We've already got problems with the education because we don't have enough money. Never mind the fact that they're going to take the CHOOSE Act to suck more money out of it. Exactly where is the cost going to come from to be able to pay for these 10 commandments in each of the schools in the state of Alabama? This is ridiculous.
I mean, Josh, we've seen this in other countries. We've seen this in Russia. We've seen it in Turkey. We see it in other places where the state joins with religion, and then they force everyone into this one mold of religion, and they use it to tamp down on any dissent. And I just have this gut feeling that with all this pushing of school prayer and 10 commandments, that they really want state control of religion. And
I'm glad you mentioned the democratic nation of Russia that we like to model ourselves after apparently these days. But no, you're right, and you're also right that what always irritates me is this notion that if we place the 10 commandments in the schools, or we have a 30-second prayer every morning, that somehow or another this is going to fix some of the problems that we have in the schools.
Right.
I would point out to them that the 10 Commandments has been hanging in the State House over there for years now, and it hasn't done shit. I will say it's just ludicrous. And, of all the problems that we have in the schools over there and all the problems that could be addressed, that you go to this tells me one thing: you don't know how to govern and address the actual problems. And that's a shame of this. Whenever you see somebody putting forth this sort of pandering idea of religion to people out there, what they're hoping for is that you get caught up in the emotion of the religion and don't notice the fact that they're not addressing any of the real problems that are taking place in these schools.
Right. If you want morals in the school, how about teaching ethics? How about teaching social studies? Mm-hmm. How about just teaching the curriculum that will do that?
Right.
But the Supreme Court has twice ruled against these monuments in schools. But I tell you, if you want to get it together and put some of the Quran in schools, see how fast they reject that. Right, Josh?
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, but if you want to put something in schools that helps them out, how about putting enough damn books in schools?
That'd be good.
How about putting enough, paying for everybody's lunch?
Yeah.
How about, putting in the resources, giving it to, so the teachers aren't coming to the parents for toilet paper and wipes and things like that all the time.
Yep.
I mean, those are the sorts of things. If you want to actually address the problems and address what's lacking in our schools, Go out and actually educate, give the resources out to educate these kids in those schools, especially in the poorer districts, and stop this nonsense.
Well, one of the things we know in Alabama is that chickens always come home to roost. Mm-hmm. They do, and we are seeing it right now. And listen, whether you're for all these cuts that President Trump and the co-president Elon Musk are doing, or whether you're against them, the results are coming home to roost. Mm-hmm. We had a story this past week over at APR by Alex Jobin of a 74-year-old woman here in Alabama that is likely to lose her farm because she had a government contract mm-hmm. that would pay for the loans that she took out to improve her farm, to make it more sound, to make it easier to raise crops and to do the necessary work. 74 years old, Susan. She's a retired teacher. She cannot afford to make those payments, and the USDA is withholding the payments. She could lose her farm before they figure this out.
That's one example of hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be affected by this. I mean, that was a promise from the government. She didn't just go out and get this loan and say, well, maybe they'll pay me back. That was a contract with her. Yeah. And I know that Elon Musk and Donald Trump know what a broken contract is. Yeah. But now it's probably going to affect her and her family because she's not going to be able to, she's probably going to lose her farm, and God knows how long she's had the farm.
Josh, I mean, we're seeing this not just with the USDA, but we're seeing the sweeping cuts and you know, Social Security offices, layoffs. Mm-hmm. We're seeing cuts all through the state of Alabama. And this woman, the 74-year-old woman, is a Trump voter. She said, but she cannot believe he's doing this to her, I think is how her mindset is.
Well, I mean, they don't care. And, you know, listen, I hate it for her. And as a matter of fact, you know, on our podcast this week, you know, Alabama Politics this week, you can pick that up anywhere you get your podcast. We had Congresswoman Terry Sewell and Congressman Shamari Figures on. And talked about this, and now we actually brought up this the story, not necessarily her specifically, but people like her and some of these folks. And Congresswoman Terry Sewell, you know, suggested that she file a lawsuit, that she join in with others, and they all start suing over these broken promises, because these are broken promises. These people, you know, she should not lose her farm over a broken promise. No. And you know, the vilification of people is what is most troubling to me about all of this. Okay, they've castigated federal workers and made it seem like they're a lazy bunch of slobs that are just out there taking everybody's money. You know, and all of these, I want people to remember, all of this stuff are things that our government has approved and done through various administrations, including the previous Trump administration. I guarantee you, the program that this lady is on was either implemented during or survived during the Trump administration, the previous Trump administration. Right. And she's put stock and faith into that. And it's nonsense that we're still doing this stuff instead of holding accountable. If you thought there was waste in this spending, hold accountable the people that passed the program, not the people who took advantage of it.
Well, in other words, we're going to have to let that be the last word. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. We're going to discuss a bill that a couple of weeks ago I called one of the dumbest crime bills of dumb bills. And I referenced the fact that they had a dartboard down there and they said, these are bad bills and these are worse bills. And this bill hit the worst bill. And what the bill originally was to make it criminal to buy hemp-based THC in any form. It would make it a class of felony, the same as heroin or LSD. And it would put those who sell it in prison as well as those who buy it. Now, that bill has come back with some sanity about it. The bill now hopes to it will not make it illegal because according to the federal government, that's legal. What it will do in the state of Alabama is that it will regulate it and you have to be 21 to buy it. You have to, have official ID, be able to prove that you're 21. And, then it has to be regulated. In other words, tested to make sure the purity and all that. I see some problems there that they're saying it has to be only an Alabama company that produces it. That may be a problem. But overall, Susan, how do you feel about it?
I feel great about it. I mean, this was the logical thing to do, was to tax it and regulate it. They're going to put a 6% tax on it. That's fine, which will pay, I'm sure, for helping to regulate and all that. But like you said, they're saying only Alabama-based companies. Well, I also see a problem there in that I can only find maybe 2 at best companies, and I may be totally wrong about this, but we're talking about giving monopolies and then probably short supplies. So that could cause a problem.
I mean, Josh, this is reasonable, I think, where people can purchase it legally. They can consume it legally since they already can at a federal level. But I do agree with the regulating it and taxing it.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept to regulate and tax something and then limit it to only Alabama companies that are doing it. I mean, I wonder if we could apply this in other areas of the government that might be problematic, in our state, that, certain industries that might be running amok, some people might say, and you could tax it and regulate. There's a lot of things we could tax and regulate and limit to Alabama entities, or at least give them the benefit of these licenses that were handing out. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. We should do more of it.
Out of the blue, I'm thinking he might be talking about gaming. What do you think? Yeah, Josh.
You think?
I mean, hey, that's a wild guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the exact same problem. I mean, it's the exact same problem. I mean, we've been dealing with this for 25 years now, and everybody said, well, we need to tax and regulate it, just like this. We're going to tax, we're going to regulate, and we're going to give Alabama companies a leg up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this is a good idea, where the last time we tried to do this, it was a terrible idea. Oh, giving a monopoly to these poor guys in the state. Now, the Porch Creek Indians, what, you're going to give them a monopoly? What are you talking about?
Well, the thing here, you were asking for them to apply logic and consistency, Josh.
I mean, listen, we don't even know if companies exist in the state to do this. We've got a world-class entity right now that's building casinos south of Chicago and in various countries around the world. And we have this whole debate about whether or not we should allow them to do the gaming. It's so stupid, man. What are you talking about? This is the dumbest. I'm going to cuss again and make me bleep. So I'll just stop.
Boy, this just veered right into the right lane, didn't it? I mean,
it did. It always, but he's right.
It is true.
I mean, this is absolutely what we've been saying all along. And, it just makes sense. But as you said, and I've told every reporter that we have ever had in this business, do not take your logic cap to the State House. It won't work.
No. The only thing that the other piece of advice you give is follow the money.
Yeah.
And that's you can't expect anything, but if they're getting paid, you can expect the money will count. Hey, I think a very good thing we wrote about this week is the Business Council of Alabama is ramping up their political arm for the 2026 campaign. And I am all in favor of that because they are, Susan, looking for pro-business candidates. And look, I had a lot of problems with the 2010 elections, and I was for those people at the time, but they brought in some numpties and some criminals and some crazies, but they weren't this brand of crazy.
No.
We have a
No.
whole new brand of crazy
Oh, God, yeah.
that doesn't understand governing, doesn't want to understand governing. All they want to do is performative mischief that makes them look good to the base. So business entities are getting together and saying, hey, we need some level-headed, pro-business folks that will get business done. I mean, when you look out and you look at Anthony Daniels, the head of the Black Caucus, who is in the House, who is a Democrat, is the most pro-business guy you got down there.
But you got all these other idiots running around about, what is a woman, DEI bills, pronoun bills, or the 10 Commandments. That's not pro-business stuff. That makes Alabama look like the idiots that they are. And so why would a business want to come here?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what BCA is saying. Like, okay, if you guys can't do the job, we're going to replace you.
Josh, we talk about that all the time. If they don't do the job, we need somebody to get rid of them. But BCA has got money and they're raising more money. And I think this, while I normally, but this is one of those occasions you go, well, we've got to have a cure.
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you right now, you're right about Anthony Daniels. He is absolutely the most pro-business guy that they've got down there. There's some other ones. There's some Republicans down there. Nathaniel Ledbetter comes to mind. Some other guys in the Republican Party who are pro-business and who have a focus on doing things that that will bring international companies to this state and won't discourage them from coming to this state with stupidity. And I'll tell you right now, I'll do anything in the world to help the BCA in this initiative and in this purpose here that they have, because this is the cleanest, clearest path I think that we have to bringing people together and restoring some sanity to our government that most people in the middle can rely on and get behind. And I think I hope they continue on with it. I applaud all of them, Helena Duncan and all those folks down there for taking up this initiative and doing this. And I hope it is absolutely successful.
Well, as Susan said, all our leadership is really pro-business. That's Governor Kay Ivey, Will Ainsworth, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gudger, and Speaker Ledbetter are all very pro-business.
And the nice thing about the BCA thing is Clay Schofield's involved in this. So and he's very pro-business, so he knows what to ask when they're selecting candidates.
We have to leave it right there. Thank you for joining us today. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.